All of us have seen films of Pablo Escobar and other drug cartels ruthlessly conducting their business, going about with narcotic laundering, and even sneaking in money laundering every now and then. Usually, in these scenarios, the police are the ones at the heels of the criminal, making sure that justice is served. But in real life, that's not actually how things work. In fact, sometimes in very rare cases like this one, the law enforcement agencies are the ones who might be the criminal after all. So watch this video to the end to learn more about the Jose Irizarry case. But before starting the video, please subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to get all the latest updates. We'll make more videos on interesting topics, so if you want to watch them, subscribe to them. Now let's get started. Just recently, a former Drug Enforcement Administration agent was given a sentence of 145 months, or more than 12 years in jail for running a money laundering scheme and fraud operation while employed by the DEA. Jose Irizarry, 46, of Dorado, Puerto Rico, pled guilty on September 14th of 2020 to all 19 charges of an indictment against him, including money laundering, wire fraud, bank fraud, and aggravated identity theft. Yeah, you heard that right. It was a DEA agent himself who was convicted of all of these things. Maybe in all of his time as a law enforcement agent, he finally found out the tricks and tips that can help him in his illegal adventures. But in the end, the truth always catches up with the liar, and that's exactly what happened here. The indictment and plea deal state that Irizarry's scam started soon after he filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in 2010. Irizarry, while working as a special agent for the DEA, exploited his position to steal about $9 million from undercover money laundering operations. That is a huge amount to steal, and he got away with it, until now. Plus, here's the hilarious part. He would make millions in bribe money, and then he wouldn't hide it away. Instead, you'd see the money reflected in his lifestyle. Well, let's see what that means. Irizarry and his family spent at least $1 million they earned in bribes and knickknacks on things like jewelry, automobiles, and a house. Irizarry and his accomplices set up a fraudulent bank account using a stolen name in order to launder money from the illegal substances trade. Irizarry's time spent in the DEA's Miami Field Division and its Cartagena, Colombia headquarters didn't put a stop to the scam. But of course, when he started going overboard with it, he was caught and kicked out to the curb, figuratively speaking. The law has no acceptance or tolerance for anything like this, and that's what the official said. According to Assistant Attorney General Keith A. Polite Jr. of the Criminal Division, the Department of Justice has zero tolerance for abuse of public office and is dedicated to ferreting out and prosecuting corruption wherever discovered, including among the ranks of law enforcement. But if you were tired of listening to the one-sided story of police officials, you can now rest easy, as we got the details of what the man himself has to say. He's told his own story, and the world is now listening carefully to what he has to say. Jose Irizarry is known as the most corrupt agent in the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration history, but he didn't do it all alone. How often do you think this happens in the justice system? As the guy who became another man while working with the Colombian cartels to amass a fortune in luxury goods, including Ferraris, Tiffany jewelry, and a harem of lovers throughout the globe, Jose Irizarry is well aware of his reputation as the most corrupt DEA agent in the agency's history. He might be corrupt and doing illegal things, but there's no denying that the man definitely knew how to party like there was no tomorrow. But in his final hours of freedom, Irizarry told the Associated Press that he wouldn't go down for this alone, accusing some long-trusting DEA colleagues of him joining in skimming millions of dollars from drug money laundering strings to fund a decade's worth of lavish overseas travel, fine dining, top seats at sporting events, and frat house-style debauchery. Irizarry claims that he and dozens of other federal agents, prosecutors, informants, and even some cartel smugglers themselves went on a three-continent party bus called Team America, which picked up money launderers in cities chosen for their proximity to parties or to matches involving Real Madrid soccer or Rafael Nadal in tennis. They visited VIP suites at Caribbean strip clubs, the red light district in Amsterdam, and a Colombian vessel that would set sail with dozens of prostitutes and a full bar. We had free access to whatever we wanted, the 48-year-old Irizarry told the AP in a series of interviews before beginning a 12-year federal prison sentence. We would generate money pickups in places we wanted to go, and once we got there, it was about drinking and girls. According to Irizarry, all this laughter sprang from the demoralizing realization that DEA personnel everywhere are unable to make a difference in the global illegal substance battle. More than 100,000 Americans die every year from illegal substance overdoses. Yet just a passing thought was given to actually constructing cases or stopping the record influx of illicit substances and narcotics entering the United States. Days of apologetic, resentful, and often emotional interviews with the AP in his beloved San Juan's historic neighborhood resulted in Irizarry's account, which former colleagues, several of them, have blasted as a fabricated effort to minimize a sentence. After pleading guilty in 2020 to 19 corruption crimes, including money laundering and bank fraud, he offered the FBI much the same version in lengthy debriefings and sealed court documents acquired by the AP. U.S. Justice Department investigators have been carefully following the confessional trail laid out by Irizarry in recent months, interviewing as many as 24 current and former DEA officers and prosecutors who Irizarry claims turned a blind eye to his gross violations and occasionally joined in. The once promising agent has accused several of his former Miami-based Group 4 colleagues of padding their pockets and fabricating documents to refill a slush fund used for international vacations over the course of a decade, until his retirement in 2018. The agent of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, he said, had taken a bribe of $20,000. The FBI, OIG, and a federal prosecutor all visited Irizarry in jail lately to talk about his charges of misbehavior by other federal workers and marine interdictions. A previous business colleague of Irizarry's, named George Zamberos, who often went abroad to investigate instances of money laundering, is now the target of their attention. Irizarry said to the AP that Zamberos had unrestricted access to so-called commission monies and that he had inappropriately used those funds for personal purchases and unjustified travels, providing fictitious names of individuals to the DEA to excuse his lavish spendings. However, after being arrested and held on sexual assault charges during a trip to Madrid in 2018, Zamberos continued to work as a DEA agent. In late 2019, when the same prosecutor who prosecuted Irizarry had him go before a federal grand jury in Tampa to testify, he resigned after citing his Fifth Amendment rights to remain quiet. This resulted in the loss of his firearm, badge, and security clearance. To put it simply, Zamberos is the brother of one of Jose Irizarry's old companions who got boozed up and traversed the globe with DEA agents. After he refused to testify in March before a federal grand jury looking into DEA corruption, he was arrested. "I didn't do anything wrong, but I'm not going to speak about my brother," Zamberos told AP. Pinellas County, Florida, booking picture from November 2022 showing Michael Zamberos, who was arrested in March for refusing to testify before a federal grand jury looking into DEA corruption. Authorities are so concerned about Zamberos that they gave immunity to a Florida wedding photographer who often hung out with DEA officers and was subpoenaed for information on him. Michael Zamberos, however, also refused to testify and has been detained outside of Tampa since March for civil contempt, a very unusual pressure technique that reflects on increasing intensity of the probe. And if you thought that was crazy, wait till you hear what we have for you next. He said, "The next news we have is that the watchdog of the Justice Department issued a report alleging that DEA employees held sex parties with prostitutes recruited by local narcotics gangs abroad over a period of many years." Jeez, could you imagine? We thought money laundering was the worst of it, but now there are sex parties involved in the entire scene. Although the report didn't reveal which countries the parties took place in, a law enforcement officer with knowledge of the situation pointed the finger at Colombia. Obviously, we've understood some of it through the previous reports. 7 of the 10 DEA officers suspected of attending the parties acknowledged doing so, with most of the events occurring in the agents' quarters rented from the United States government. Some of the agencies were suspended for up to 10 days despite holding top-secret credentials. The news also claims that 3 DEA supervisory agents were presented with money, costly presents, and guns by members of narcotics cartels. These allegations came from former Colombian police officers. Jeez, really makes you wonder, you know? Like, if the law officials are so corrupt, what can we say to the criminals? Who is there to serve justice when it's the people of the law themselves who are at fault? It's kind of crazy, but I guess it is what it is. Anyways, what do you think about the entire case? Do you think that justice was served, or should he be punished more severely than what was given to him? If you liked the video, then click on the like button and the bell icon, and we'll have another video for you soon. And take care until then. Adios.